Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our Nakshatra series of the week. And this week we're going to be covering our Nakshatra or planets through Nakshatra series. And we're going to be covering Saturn in the Nakshatra of Jyeshta. And what happens when Saturn is sitting in the sign of Scorpio in the Nakshatra of Jyeshta in your particular horoscope. And especially towards the end 13 degrees of Scorpio zodiac sign is where this nakshatra comes about. And as always, if you do not know, if you have Saturn in this nakshatra, which pada it's in, all the other astrological details, their nakshatra placements, for that, check out the links here. Check out my full astrological report, including my books, Astrology, Conjunction, Aspects, and Mahadashas at the Speed of Light, including all my reading and consultations at that link. So let's get started with Saturn in the nakshatra of Jyeshta in your horoscope. So Jyeshta nakshatra is a nakshatra which is known as the elder sister to Lakshmi. If Lakshmi is the goddess of the light world, the world that is seen through the light, seen through the rays of the sun, Jyeshta is the goddess of the darker world, goddess of our inner world. If Lakshmi is known as a goddess of prosperity, goddess of wealth, Lakshmi obviously. Jyeshta is known as the goddess of wealth of hidden knowledge, wealth of, occult mysticism, wealth of learning about Kundalini awakening and Tantra, sexual Tantra, mental Tantra. That's what Jyeshta is. Jyeshta is about piercing deep within to find our inner strength and wealth. And this is why you will see Jyeshta people will be like in being a government spy, magicians, tantrics, occultists. They have this natural talent of going deep within into things. But the thing is, desire for Jyeshta is always to come out of this world. Jyeshta, because remember, darkness is pretty much the other part of light. And everything in this universe is always looking for light. So most of the time what happens with Jyeshta people, they're always looking for the light side. As much as they have the talent of the darker, they're like, oh, I want this. I want this light world. I want this material world. I want that Lakshmi power. That's the kind of jigsaw that they create for themselves. But now you're putting Saturn into this mix. Saturn is a planet of duty, commitment, discipline, structure, organizations. It's a planet of sacrifice. It's a planet that represents the practicality of this world. It represents the working class people, represents servants, maternal uncle. So now Saturn is sitting in the sign of Scorpio and Nakshatra of Jyeshta, and this is the Nakshatra which has given the rulership of Mercury. Mercury rules as Jyeshta Nakshatra because see, Mercury has this duality to itself. This is why it's a dual sign. Mercury has the ability to go from one place to the other, like it's always in the middle of something. This is why Mercury represents change of seasons. Okay? Like right now, especially in US, we are from winter to spring. That is Mercury. Mercury represents this flexibility of energy. This is why the morning sunrise time and the sunset time is ruled by what? Mercury. Mercury rules those hours of an hour after sunrise, after hour before sunrise, and hour before sunset and hour after sunset. It is the Mercury time. This is why Jyeshta perfectly is ruled by Mercury, because Jyeshta represents this duality of the outer world and inner world. And who better to control this than Mercury itself? So Saturn, when it comes here, shows naturally our duty, commitment, sacrifice, discipline, structure goes into understanding the things that are hidden, understanding the things that are deep beneath the surface through which we can gain the light. Like these people make great researchers. They make great government spies. They can make great oil and petroleum and mining experts. They make great cave explorers. The people who do cave exploring professionally or as a hobby, and they may get sponsors, especially now you have like sports on ESPN, like extreme sports, where they do like parachuting within a cave. They're in a parachute within the cave. The cave is so deep and big. That exploration, that boldness comes through this Saturn with jyeshta. And Saturn naturally represents the 8th house. This is why Saturn is so closely connected to jyeshta. Although it rules the nakshatra right before this, which is Anuradha. But Saturn here actually does quite well. Because remember, Scorpio, first of all, is the natural 8th house of the zodiac belt, right? The natural 8th house of the main Deshkal Patra horoscope. Who is the significator of the 8th house? Saturn. So Saturn being in Scorpio, actually Saturn feels comfortable here because Saturn is kind of like that rejected son, put into the darkness, put into the gutter. So Saturn's like, well, I grew up here. I'm comfortable. And Saturn then becomes a karka of the 8th house, of everything that the 8th house represents. Occult, mysticism, sorcery, oil, petroleum, death, rebirth, insurance, inheritance, wills and estates. Everything is controlled by Saturn. So regardless of where this sign of Scorpio is, Saturn has some say in Scorpio, remember. And because of the fact this is a nakshatra that is ruled by Mercury, one of friends of Saturn, Saturn feels quite comfortable. Saturn has the ability to dig deep into things through which it can gain the light, the money, the wealth. Because as much as we think that these people are maybe all about occult and mysticism, not necessarily, unless you have other combinations. Like a moon in Swati Nakshatra, Jupiter and Chitra Nakshatra may not be so attracted towards occult and mysticism. Somebody with this kind of a Saturn may come across my video and might be curious to learn about their alignment, but they're not like, oh, I'm going to pursue this professionally. Because this is the person who's originally is naturally able to manipulate situation into their favor by dealing behind the scenes, by using their power. Jyeshta, the goddess of power, they use their power to attain power. They use their ability to manipulate situations behind the scenes to attain power. So these are the people who may do very well in negotiation in, chemicals and oil and petroleum. They may do very well in opening up their own coal mine, diamond mines. And especially diamond mines can be a great business because of the fact it's jyeshta who has the power, and especially you're digging deep for wealth underneath the ground. Jyeshta can actually represent diamond. But especially for these people, if other planets are aligned to give them the power of interest in occult mysticism, they will make some of the best tarot card readers. They'll make some of the best tantric people, some of the best people in magic or magica, whatever you want to call it. Like, remember, occult is not necessarily just astrology. Astrology is a very small part of the occult. Occult has such deep level to itself. And especially, I tell people always this. Whenever you hear about magic and this person's doing this voodoo and black magic and white magic, the magic that you hear about like on articles or some Facebook post or some video, they don't know nothing. They don't know nothing. It's kind of like what really shows me about jyeshta, the power of jyeshta nakshatra, is like imagine James Randi, the person who debunks all these things. And he has debunked astrology as well. I don't know if he has ever debunked. I would really love to see James Randi try to debunk Kapiel Raaj. That'll be interesting if he can. That's a challenge for you, James. But it's like the things that we know about magic and occult is like what James Randi knows about astrology. He just knows about sun signs and moon signs and Western astrology and very basic of it. He doesn't know anything about the nadis. Doesn't know nothing about Jaimani. I mean, come on. Do you think James Randi will look into, Jaimani astrology and Nadi astrology, Brigu astrology? He just wants people to just come and debunk them and leave them. Most people just know the very basics. This is why Saturn in Jyeshta is a person who can explore and find out the real occultic powers. Something which you may not even hear about. If somebody just wrote a book on how to do black magic, they'll probably know 1% of what it actually is. There are so many levels to occult. I mean, it will like make you go crazy what you knew, how deep occult is. So they have the ability to do that, but they don't choose to do it. Because here their desire always becomes, it's like Saturn feels like this rejected sun. And it doesn't feel like I want to be here in this 8th house matter. I want to shine. I want to shine brighter than my father. Like he's shining outside, I want to shine. So it becomes this like a competitive thing with Saturn being here. Like I want to show that I can make all that material wealth and money. Now, one of the things you have to realize is that the padhas of this nakshatra will have Saturn sign in it. The second and the third pada, I believe it's a second. Yeah, second and third pada is Capricorn and Aquarius. In the first and fourth pada is where Saturn will be more inclined towards spirituality, will be more inclined towards astral travel, tarot, astrology. In the second and third pada is where you will really see a person who's more of a business person, more of a scientist, more of a explorer, and not the explorer of occult, but more of explorer of like nature, environment. But they naturally have the ability to take control of things because they have that jyeshta power within them. So this is a very, very good nakshatra for Saturn. If you have Saturn in this nakshatra, you make a very good manipulator of situation. You make a great PR agent. So if there's some debacle, some oil spill somewhere, you know how to turn situations around, transformation. Why? Remember, Scorpio. Because Saturn is still in that energy of Scorpio. You can't forget that. You make great spies. You make great, army lieutenants, criminal justice professionals. People who are making money in the material world by digging deep into things. Digging deep into the murder, solving that murder. And yes, you will find, like I said, according to the Padha, you can get a philosopher, you can get an astrologer, you can get a priest. I mean, this is where all the other combinations has to be there. You see, the one planet will not really make you something. Unless, of course, the Saturn was in the third house, then it'll probably just, the one thing that it'll definitely do is that help you in business more than jobs. But to see a combination of astrology, tarot, occult, healer, philosopher, then you have to see everything else. Atmakarka, ascendant, moon, Amatyakarka, all of these things will come about. Okay? So guys, this was my analysis of Saturn in the nakshatra of Jyeshta. If you're new to my channel, subscribe below. And if you want to know where your Saturn is placed, all the other astrological details, my books, reports, consultations, for that check out the links here. Otherwise, we'll see you later. Bye-bye.